Hi, I'm Cameron, and I don't just read comics, I love them. On today's episode of Cameron Reads Comics, my friend Alec and I are going to be reading The Walking Dead Volume 1. We're going to be going through the first 6 issues of the incredibly famous series. This doesn't quite count as part of our first comic series, but years ago I took Alec with me to a comic shop and he picked up the first trade paperback of The Walking Dead. And now he's basically a full-fledged comic fan. So we're going to be going back to where it all started for him. As a reminder, we are going to be going into complete spoilers for Image Comics and Skybound's Walking Dead number 1 through 6. We're also going to talk heavily about some of the outcomes of the Walking Dead TV series. So if you're watching that and you don't want it to be spoiled, maybe check this episode out later. And remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Cameron Reads Comics. And make sure to clobber the like and subscribe buttons, as well as leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes for me. Now, here's your episode on The Walking Dead. The world we know is gone. The world of commerce and frivolous necessity has been replaced by a world of survival and responsibility. An epidemic of apocalyptic proportions has swept the globe, causing the dead to rise and to feed on the living. In a matter of months, society has crumbled. No government, no grocery stores, no mail delivery, no cable TV. In a world ruled by the dead, the survivors are forced to finally start living. All right. Welcome, Alec, to Cameron Reads Comics.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. Well, first and foremost, I think one of the most important things I need to say is that it has been you should have been on this podcast a long time ago.
Wow. I was thinking the same thing.
Well, when it comes to, because I started this as a platform to share my
love for comics.
My love for comics with the world, but also you were one of the first people I ever just shared in a very real way comics with. And you're one of the few people who's been to Marvel movie premieres with me. Yep. And what do we see together? We at least saw, I know for a fact, Logan and Guardians 2 together.
Yeah, and I think we saw Infinity War.
Oh, we could have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's
because you're shh. And I was I have so many questions. What's happening? And
you're like,
oh, after.
I'm don't. And good friends don't let friends talk to them during Marvel movies.
Yeah. So I talked to the NPC next to me the whole time. Who's Spider-Man?
Yeah, exactly. I'm apparently So, yeah, no, I think about you being here now, and I don't know what episode this is going to end up being. We're close to 40.
10,000. Oh.
Yeah, we're close to 40. Close enough, though. And I'm just
you have 40?
Yeah.
Bro, congratulations.
Well, I can see you're a devoted follower.
The first 30 were okay.
Yeah, he's oh.
It's the last 10.
As long as I finish strong, right? So now I wanted to, before we get into the book we read and everything, I wanted to talk about what has been your relationship with fandom thus far. That can be anything. That could be are you following a fandom? Because comics are kind of they're for me, that's my exclusive fandom. For you, it could be anything.
Well, fandom right now. I guess I play video games. I like playing Warzone.
Yeah, but you were a big Walking Dead guy.
I was, and then the show. So I started loving Walking Dead from the TV show, but then it got a little weird because they kind of had the same plot for every other group they ran into. It was they're gonna try to take over. These people wear zombies' faces. These people eat you, and I was okay, it's kind of a repetitive story of they run into another group. There's always an issue, and then it falls apart. People die, and it happens again and again. So, I kind of got drawn in by the TV show, but then once we started hanging out more, and you started taking me to Pulp Fiction, I was wait a minute, Walking Dead is a comic, and once I heard that, I'm oh, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna buy it and read it.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of got me into it, really.
Yeah, it's so funny because Pulp okay, so for the fans, that's Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach. There's also a Culver City location. Go check both those out. They're all in California. That is, yeah, I take so many people there because, you know, we'd work on Friday. I think I'd get paid on Fridays, and then I'd just go.
We'd spend the 2 cents we made on comics.
Exactly, and that's what I still do. So, I just think that I think about that, and I'm like, ooh, I really. That's just like a very special place for me to bring people. And then I remember you were like looking around, and I was like, oh, bro, you should go get something. And then you bought yourself the first volume because there's 1 million copies of the first trade, and then like. You know, they're in a dollar bin at this point. And so you picked one up, and then I remember I think it might have been by Christmas, because for Christmas or your birthday or something, I bought you the second and third volumes because they're also in the dollar bin, and I was like, oh, go. And
Once again, back to the 2 cents we made.
Yes. I was like balling on a budget. All right.
Batman? Not yet.
And so it was just so fun because like it's very, for me as someone who like adores this medium and like the potential within these stories, it's just so fun to be able to see like sharing that with a friend.
Yeah. Like, and I think in that it shows your appreciation for what you enjoy. Like if you enjoy something, what do? You want to share it with somebody and invite them into it and say, yeah, I enjoy this. Maybe you might, maybe you not, but here's why. Yeah. And even though I'm not like as big as a fan of comics as you are, I still enjoy it from time to time.
You are a comic fan, and there's no like you're doing great. You know, everyone thinks like they need to be some sort of like level of fandom. It's like, hey, have you read comics? I know you have. Yeah. And you like it's
Saturday
like
newspaper.
It's spread into other things too, though. You know what I mean? Because we got you on this, and then we got you on Batman, and then we got you on another Batman series, and it's like, and I'm sure if I recommend something for you, you'd pick it up and you'd read it lickety split.
I have so much money, so I just feel like
these days, shoot. You also, I don't know if you remember, but we went to because we it wouldn't just be that. We like would work. Okay, so we'd work whatever a 9-to-5 job, and then like we'd have to host events because it was just like a very event-driven organization, and so we would work and we'd get off at 3 so that we can go work this event later. But then you and I would just go get these really long lunches and go get coffee, and we'd bring our comics to the coffee shop and we'd just read them, and that is my love language.
Yeah, no, like having that time in between like a busy schedule, doing something that you love, is just like. It's so enjoyable. It's like a little break from like reality. You're like, okay, I have an event that's going to keep me at that place till 9 p.m. Yeah. I've been here since 9 a.m. Yeah. I just want like a break. It's like coffee and something I love to do.
Yeah. You know? And it's also, it's that very special thing where it's just quiet. There's like a quote in Pulp Fiction, the movie, where like if you can sit in silence with someone and it's not uncomfortable, that's like the peak level of relationship. And I'm like, we're definitely there. And that's what
we're sitting there for like an hour, and you're across from me and you're sipping your coffee, I'm sipping mine, and we're not saying a word.
Yeah. And it's just great.
Like, oh, should I like say, hey, how's the book? Like just sitting there enjoying it.
Yeah. And you know, you break into small talk every now and then, but otherwise it's good.
Or like, I know what you would do. You'd be like, dude, look what just happened. Yeah. And it's probably a book I never even heard of. And I'm like, cool, but you're just like super stoked, like, oh man, look at this panel, look at this. I'm like, cool.
You're like, nice, Cameron.
I'm trying to read. Shut it. Don't interrupt.
It's like when you're a kid and you're like trying to get your mom's attention. You're like, mom, look, and mom's not even looking, and she's like, wow. Yeah.
Wow, Cameron, that is awesome. 5 points for you.
I'm like, gets gold star, puts it as bookmark, and I'm like, I'm doing so great at reading this.
For those you know, it's a sticker.
I'm winning leisure time. So, actually, as we go into Walking Dead, what did you like? How far did you get? Because this is a very long series. How far did you get in the trades? Do you remember?
I do not. I do remember, so I don't remember the trade I left off in, but I do remember the scene. It was like right after he got his arm cut off, and him being, how am I forgetting this guy's name? Rick's getting, like, he gets his arm cut off. And the reason why that stuck out to me so much is because the TV show doesn't happen.
Oh, I thought you meant, they were going to say, it sticks out to me because I have both my arms.
No, I don't. I was like, I can relate to that. Stop. But like I was like, that didn't happen in the TV show. So I'm like, why is it different in the comic? Yeah. So I left off at that point where he got his arm chopped off, which made it was like I was so used to Walking Dead, the TV show, that when you have the same thing but a little twist, it almost like breaks your heart a little bit. I'm like, why didn't they want to do it on the TV show, and why did they keep that in the comics? And like,
you know, I think that there's this school of fans or like people receiving that kind of content, or like. like purists when it comes to like their content that they're taking
like
in.
word for word.
Yeah, they want it to be an exact replica of the book. And personally, I'm like split down the middle. I don't want it to be exactly like the book. Maybe I want them to hit the same beats. If there's some event that inspires, the main storyline, I want those main events in. But I don't want it to be word for word because I don't want to know what I'm already seeing. You know what I mean? I want it to be unpredictable. I do want to be surprised by the content because I think that's where the sheer joy comes from it. So
you find something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I was like, I think season 8 and I'm like deep in the TV show. So we'd have watch parties with friends and we'd like rush from church. 9 p.m. was a sharp, like, okay, it's starting on AMC. So we'd sit there and we'd be like all hyped up to watch like what happened. And the biggest one was when like the group ran into some gnarly other group that one of the main characters like gets his head destroyed.
I think we know which one.
Yeah.
That scene broke the internet.
Yeah. So going from like that, I enjoy the book because then what it does is it has some of those similarities from like the TV show, but like you said just now, it's also cool to introduce something different to where in my head I go, well, like what would have changed if this event happened in the book, but also happened in the TV show and vice versa. So
it's different. I think about that a lot too. Like one of the things is I think it's incredible that a series can go on as long as it does and it has the staying power. Yeah. What's crazy about Walking Dead is they're actually like, at least currently, and I don't think this is spoilers really, but like I guess Rick is having his own movie. There's like something else that they're planning with that dude, and
I wouldn't be surprised because in the last episode I saw is he supposedly died, but he didn't. And what I'm assuming is that's that storyline where he is separated from the group. I don't know how long, but during that time he has his own run.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's crazy to think like in this volume that we read 1 through 6, like. The people that died and the people that didn't, which actually transitions into the text and into what we read compared to the show. How did you feel when you were reading the comic about the character Shane that they used in the book incredibly lightly? He lost issues 1 through 6, and then in the show he's on there for a couple seasons. How did you feel about that?
So here's the thing with the TV show that is, I think, a little bit different than the book is. I think he didn't last as long in the TV show because they made him seem like a jerk instantly. Yeah. Like he was the guy that I guess would take the people who are watching their attention off of like, okay, a zombie apocalypse, people are trying to group up to like, oh, even though that's going on, there's still issues between humankind. Yeah. And it takes your eyes off of that and focuses on that to where I'm like, oh, this guy's a jerk. To where in the book, it's not the same. Like he is so kind of, but he really isn't as well because what that does is it shows more of how he came along and took care of Rick's wife because Rick was supposed to be dead. And it shows more of that lightheartedness versus the TV show didn't quite show that as much. It was like, oh, who's this guy cheating on like who's this guy trying to pick up my wife? That's what it came across as.
It's kind of funny because I feel the opposite.
Really?
I feel like in the show, I hated
him in the show.
Well, he wasn't like the most likable character, but I just think like in the show we got time with him to see him like be redemptive, and I think that's the strength of a show like that or like a series like this where we get to spend time with the characters and like they really get to lean into like everything going on in a longer window than can be a picture on a page. Yeah, and totally. So that being the case, I thought like in the first volume it's just boom, Shane is like his partner, and then he helped his wife, and then
helped his wife.
Yeah, helped him in more ways than one.
Yeah, he also took groceries.
Yeah, and so Shane helps him out, and they go from Shane being like the number or like the guy to Rick coming back and saying, hey, we should really move camp because we're right by Atlanta and this is pretty dangerous. Yeah. And Shane's like, no, it's safe. And then Rick's like, okay, whatever, bro. And then he says one more thing and Shane punches Rick in the face. And it's like, what? Like, why are you so aggro? And then it blows my mind because Rick, like, I don't know, Rick and Shane, it builds up, it heightens to one thing. You find out Shane was sleeping with Rick's wife. Yeah. In the show, it lasted like a long time, but they
kind of dragged it out,
which was like gnarly. I'm like, I like that they played and leaned into that tension because it is a big deal. And then afterwards, like, okay, like, well,
Yeah.
You know, in the comic, there wasn't really a big payoff. Do you remember in the show how Rick dies? Or not Rick, Shane dies?
Yeah, Rick is the one that kills him.
Rick is the one that kills him.
In the book, it's his son.
Yeah, how did you...
Which I'm like, oh my gosh, because even in the TV show, the son was kind of warming up to him by the time Rick was reintroduced to the group. Yeah. So it's like, okay, like there's a weird, like almost like a stepdad type of thing. Like he's not really my dad, but like he's been this role model during this time. I thought my dad was dead. It was like kind of this weird tension with that going on, to where it made sense because, like you were saying earlier, there's some things you can do with a TV show that you can't do with a comic. And if they would have followed that same line, it would have been a lot weirder because there was kind of like a relationship there versus like in the book, it kind of was, but wasn't. And it made more sense why it makes sense why he was the one to do it versus Rick.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I was just like, oh my gosh, because then what it does too is in the TV show, Carl, there's no L. It's a joke. If you're into Walking Dead,
I'm learning.
Because his accent, he's all Carl, and he went to the L. But in the TV show, Carl becomes like this gnarly kid who's like walking around with a gun in his hip, has one eye, a bandage across it.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like this like BA little kid. And I'm like, imagine if like that would have happened in the TV show and that early of the season. I think it would have really messed up his character development. Versus when it was in the book, it was like, oh wow, this kid like did it off the bat, like almost like season 2 of a TV show. Like this kid is gnarly. He's like he killed somebody already. I almost like, what the heck? Yeah,
and what blows my mind, which I'm like almost to the point of not believing it, the kid kills a dude and he's 7 years old in the book. I'm like, what? That is absurd.
Yeah, he's like, I thought it was a water gun. I'm like, well, it's not.
he's like, oh man. And so I just thought when I read that, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, because he's like so young. You're like, okay. Like that's really intense. And I don't think they could have done that on a TV show because of his age, which makes sense. Because I feel like comics tend to be more graphic, but like, not that it's a bad thing, but like it tends to be more graphic than a TV show does because it's just different when it's on the air versus something you're purchasing. Yeah. Like it's just different. So I feel like they couldn't have done that on a TV show and people would be like, you're making a 7-year-old a killer. And like, it would have just, I think it would have blown up in a way that they didn't want it to or meant it to.
Yeah. Yeah. It was good. It like the slow burn. And even, you know, what's crazy too is how long in the show, I think it's Andrea.
Yeah.
Andrea lasts.
Yeah.
There's two sisters, Amy and Andrea. And I think Amy dies so quick and Andrea lives a super long time. And I'm like, in the book.
Yeah. And she becomes gnarly too.
Yeah. In the comic, I'm like, she's barely, at least in the first 6 issues or whatever, or what I recall from what I read based on what I watched. Cause I got right before Negan's premiere pretty much. And then I was like, out. I'm tired. Well, I'm a
His
big.
bat was too.
It's what? Like, based on someone. I remember, oh my gosh. But also, big shout out to Steven Yeun on the podcast right now. The actor that plays Glenn is currently voicing the main character in this show I love called Invincible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's you know what's funny is Walking Dead is written by Robert Kirkman and Invincible is also a Robert Kirkman comic. And so to see a guy from both properties that Kirkman did and there's a bunch of crossover like that within the voice cast of Invincible and like the series regulars on Walking Dead. So I'm like, I'm just so glad to see that Kirkman and Steven Yeun are tight. So
because especially how he went out, you would assume like, ooh, because he went out. I mean, he just went out.
You know,
he struck out.
You're great for dodging spoilers as well as you can. When you were reading the story, how did you feel about like the black and white color palette as opposed to reading like, you know, newer comics in color?
Yeah. So for me, and I know everyone looks at a comic and reads it differently and has different experiences, but for me, what I think it does is it helps me concentrate more on the story than than the picture itself. So like the storyline, what's being said, I think what it does for me is it takes my attention off of, look how good of an artist this person is and all these cool colors, to like I'm focusing more on the storyline and what's going on between the characters. Yeah. So it makes it more, for me, simplified than, because, you know, between our conversations, I'm not the biggest comic dude. So I'm not going to sit there and talk about, you know, panels and all these things for like hours, which I'm sure you can. That's what this is.
I'm literally here doing that.
Yeah, exactly. To where I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, but I really like the plot, or I really like this interaction between this character and that character. So I think I would say like a novice reader,
Yeah.
it makes it very simple to be able just to enjoy a story versus if someone gets into comics, and I would see how something being more like modern where there's more color and just a different style, how that would appear to them more so than like, oh, that's like almost like baby steps. It reminds me of like, Saturday mornings when the newspaper was a thing and people got it. There was like Saturday morning, comic strips. And they weren't like the most like well drawn. They weren't like the most well put together, but people sat there and enjoyed them for what they were.
Yeah.
And then once people got into stuff, I was like, okay, that's like level 1 entry stuff. To where now you're reading like crazy. What are those like anime comics you're reading? What are those things?
What? Akira?
But there's a certain name to it.
Like manga?
Yeah, manga.
I read Akira. I don't want anyone to think I'm like a absolute manga fan. Like I like manga.
He loves Pokemon.
I'm like I do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm like, it's crazy. It's I think
you don't start off reading that. I feel like you start off like how Walking Dead is very simple. And
yeah.
And then once you appreciate things more, you get into those things that have a lot more to it than someone who just started can't recognize,
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things that lends itself to like this storytelling style is because like you can start off and indie comics that's what this is, are one of the best platforms for people to start off because you don't need to know all this continuity to start this. You can just pick it up and be like, oh wow, like this cop and his best friend.
Not a whole lot of backstory.
Yeah, you're dropped right in and like it can end too, or in a way like Batman and Superman really can't end. There's never gonna be like the last issue of Batman. He's always gonna keep coming out every single month. Yeah. And so with this story, I found that or with indie comics, it's funny because it opens the door to new types of stories.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
we kind of get your feet wet a little bit, and you're like, okay, I'm getting into this. I'm liking it. What's next?
Yeah. Did anything in this series or this comic like catch you like by surprise? You're like, wow, the potential within this means for storytelling. I'd never seen something like that before.
I mean, I would just say no, just because I watched a TV show, so it kind of already like introduced a lot of themes of like throughout the whole book. I mean, there were differences for sure, but I think the TV show took away from that. So I would say no, but if it was I read comic first before TV show, 100%, because like it would have went from, okay, this is what I know, this is what I enjoy. The TV show, it's almost completely different. Like their characters are a little bit different, scenes that are happening are a little bit different, the way the storyline is playing itself out is a little bit different. Yeah. So I think if I went from comic to TV show versus TV show to comic, I would have had more of those experiences, but unfortunately I didn't. So I'm like,
what the heck, man?
I'm almost like the thing, like, especially with you're a huge Marvel guy, huge. And you own every single book that,
Not true, but
pretty much
I'm getting there.
You have Squirrel Girl. That's huge. I mean, no one's even heard of her.
Not yet.
Except if Marvel fans.
Yeah.
So when someone like you go from like reading comics to movies and you appreciate it more and you see those differences where I'm like, I went from this, now I'm kind of going backwards. I don't know. That's how I feel like comics works with movies. Is like if you see it first on film, you're kind of retracing your steps going back to the book. Yeah, and you're not wrong either. It's really interesting. But also too, it's like, and that's why I like content that's not explicitly based off one thing. And you know what I mean? Like the cool part about something like Avengers Endgame is there's really not quite a single issue of Avengers that movie is based on. Like, right. I remember you would tell me that when we went and watched it. I was like, oh, tell me this. And you're like, well, it's a little bit different from the actual comic. Yeah. Like there's no one series where, well, there is and there isn't, but that's what makes it fun is because like I didn't know what I was about to see. And like even when, in the comics, when Thanos did dust everyone, it wasn't like 5-year window. It was, okay, everyone's gone. Oh, the heroes came back. Okay, now all the heroes are here. It was like immediately. It was within 6 issues, which is, at the time 6 months. But now it's like, it's just different. And so that being the case, I was really it veering off from the source material is fun because like I can have you watch something like that, like Walking Dead, and then read something like this and be like, wow, like okay, it's so different than how I thought, or like in for Avengers Endgame just being the example laid ahead, but in the movie, Thanos is doing it because he wants balance in the universe. Right. In the comic, he's doing it because he wants to court the maiden Death. And you almost like. So I was watching Infinity War Endgame like last week.
Yeah.
And it's probably like the 6th or 7th time I watched both.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm supposed to hate Thanos, but then like his logic makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Like in some like in a weird way.
No, not even in a
I
weird
was
way.
just like, oh, like that makes sense.
Just in a logical way.
Yeah.
He's like, I want the world to thrive.
Yeah.
So in order to get rid of, all this starvation and be able to like have everyone
Simple
live peacefully,
math.
let me get rid of half the population. And I'm like, wow, you know what? If there's less people, we would thrive. Like,
Yeah. And I was like, okay, like that makes sense. And like, not that I'm on board with the way he went about it, but I'm like, okay, I understand where he's coming from.
Alec, that is not what you told me before we turned on the mics.
Well, it's different now because people are listening. 'Cause everyone's watching.
Alec said, wow, Thanos makes a really good point. We should really get on that.
Yeah. I was like, we should go back like 60 years in time and like.
What you guys don't know is that Alec right now has his finger out and he's balancing a blade perfectly on it because the universe is about balance. That's an Infinity War joke.
Yeah. The blade is huge.
Okay, so then how did you feel reading this as opposed to watching the show and like experiencing Robert Kirkman's writing style? Because he has a very specific style. How did you feel about that?
I think, and maybe I'm speaking on the behalf of everybody, but I appreciate something much more when I read through it versus watching it. And this goes all the way back to like in 6th grade, I started reading The Lord of the Rings. I was an advanced reader. It was like I was like a 9 to 11, 9.0 to like 11.5 reader.
Oh, okay, get it. He's wearing a badge that says that right now.
Yeah,
too.
it's weird. It's gold, like the star I gave you.
He's like, I got. How come mine says 5.2?
Yeah, you're real slow, buddy. But it goes back to that where I read The Hobbit, and I read the Fellowship, the Two Towers, and then Return of the King, and I read them, and they're like 1,000 pages each book, huge. And like I'm like, oh my gosh, this story, this plot, beautiful. And you go watch the movie, and I'm like, the movies are great,
of course,
no complaints.
We are Peter Jackson fans.
Yeah,
on the Cameron
he's
Comics
here,
podcast.
Peter,
Hey.
Pete,
Big Pete,
Big Pete. But like, I go from movie, and I'm like, this is great, but the book, it's just, there's like just more to it that you get to appreciate the grand story versus just like a film. To where I love like going back and reading things that I watch, because there's like minor details and things that you don't necessarily see in films that you do in the book. And I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like, I'm really enjoying this. And I think it makes a greater appreciation for the film and for the book itself and the story and the plot of whatever you're reading. That I go back and I'm like, okay, I enjoy this more because I've seen it. Now I've like read it and it's like making sense and it's coming together, Yeah,
absolutely. I feel that. It's cool. It's cool too. And like just to have supplementary material, like really, I think one of the biggest driving forces I've understood in my comic book journey is just context and just like understanding. And that's why I love Marvel, is because I enjoy trudging through, the 100,000 books of context that are happening behind, the camera. And so, or understanding why. We can just say it. We'll spoil it, man. Why Glenn was going to be the one who was going to die in that episode of Walking Dead. I was like, knowing that and understanding the pieces that are in place right now, or like the Easter eggs. I'm like, that's the reason I watch it all. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I know, oh man, at the end of
you're able to explain things.
Yeah. Well,
like, and that reminds me whenever we watch a Marvel movie and you're like, wait till the credits. And I'm like, bro, like it's over. And you go pee, like don't move. And I'm like, okay. And there's a scene that's happening. And I'm like, cool. Like it's almost like in Disney when you have like those little like movies, like the little short films of Pixar, when it's like, oh yeah, like you're like, oh, you have to get there early, and I'm like, why? It's like a bird squawking, and they're like, cool, Bird, the movie that never came out. So I'm like sitting there with you, and I'm like, okay, cool, like we're staying for the credits, and
I'm
it's like
la, la, la,
and you're like drooling, and you're just taking it in, and I have no clue like what this is about, and I turn to you. Like what you just said, you doing all your homework and the back end stuff, the nitty gritty, like reading. I go, okay, what's that all about? And you go, well, it all started, and you like take me all the way back, which I'm like, I kind of like understand now. I didn't do all the work. I appreciate it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense why we stayed 50 minutes through all the credits,
every little like intern that brought coffee's name that is on the screen right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember like we watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and in that movie, the Easter egg is that, you know, the golden alien race or whatever, they have a tomb or like what's like a chrysalis, like a butterfly's gonna come out. In that chrysalis, it's like a character, and they're like, we're gonna name him Adam, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like, that's Adam Warlock. He da 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 da.
Yeah, I'm like, cool.
And you're like, cool. Who's that, and why is they?
And you just explained to me, and I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Like you connect the dots because you've done all the back end stuff, which. Yeah. Makes it for a greater appreciation when you see that scene and you understand where I'm like, it's a butterfly.
You're like, oh,
cool, they're gold, awesome.
I'm like, oh, gold people. You're like, I like silver though. You're like, what up, platinum people? Am I right?
Silver's on the climb. Invest.
Uncut gems over here.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was gnarly, by the way. I watched that and I was like, what did I?
Oh my god. I'm sorry. This is.
I hate how it ended.
This is a little.
I was like, really?
I gotta say this. This is a little pivot point.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm sorry, guys. It does not do with Walking Dead, but it does have to do with my experience watching Uncut Gems.
Someone dies, so it's the same thing.
And, oh my gosh. Okay, so we went to go see that movie on Christmas.
Wait, you went to the theaters and watched it?
On Christmas Day, because it came out on Christmas. And so my
fan. What a fan.
My family was like, oh wow, we really like... We're like, well, let's go to the movies because we're actually that kind of weird family that goes to the movies on Christmas Day.
Not weird. It's a thing.
It is a thing, and that's just our thing. And so we go do that, and we're like, oh, what do you guys want to watch? And I forget what movies were out. And I said, Uncut Gems is supposed to be really good. It's supposed to be the movie of Adam Sandler's career.
So were you thinking Adam Sandler, like the comic or the comedian, going into this movie, or what were you guys thinking?
No, I was thinking it's like...
okay, like more of a serious note.
He's done dramatic roles before, and like, I don't know, people may not like it, but I really like the movie... Funny People, which more of a serious role for him, but also like comedic. And then he did another one called Punch Drunk Love, which is one of my favorite directors. And people really like that. So seeing him in another drama role, I was like, I'm down for that. And so we watched it, and pretty much we sat through it, and it's for the people that know, like the Safdie brothers, it is very much just one of their movies, and it's just very like eclectic and in your face, unapologetic, like just a lot going on at one time.
Oh yeah.
I was like, wow, I kind of really like this slice of life-esque sort of film, and then, you know, the end, I was like, oh wow, the ending is, you know, that's a representation of lifestyle, live by the sword, die by the sword, whatever. And so I was like, his arc is complete, and my parents. Literally after that movie ended, because it's like 2.5 hours too. Like
you gotta power through it.
Yeah,
if you're not into it, you gotta power through it.
Yeah, my parents were like, oh, or my entire family walked away hating that movie, and they're like, we just wasted $20, and I said, I'd give it like 80%. Like, oh, that was great. Like,
I waited till Netflix.
Oh my gosh, you waited till Netflix. If you didn't like that, don't watch Good Time then, because it's the same team.
Okay, it's not like maybe I just like didn't dislike it. I don't know. I just didn't like. Okay, like what's going on here? And I'm like, oh, okay. Movie's over. Cool.
You're like,
time to go to bed.
You're just
also,
like,
I'm not buying a ring from that guy ever again.
You're like, so that happened.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Okay, so I guess I only have a couple more questions. Who is your favorite character?
And everyone else said it with me, Rick. Here's why.
Oh my gosh, here's why.
So obviously he's the main character, so everyone will default to that kind of, because it's like Iron Man. Oh, who's your favorite character? Like, oh, it's the scientist I was trying to figure out. No, it's gonna be Iron Man.
Jensen? Oh wow, you're a Jensen fan.
Yeah. Sure, love that guy.
I love it.
The actor from by the way, Christmas Story is one of the scientists in
Iron
Man. Oh my gosh.
Wait, was I with you when we found that out?
Yeah, you're at my house.
Oh yeah. What a great, I was like, oh
yeah.
Wow,
I was waiting for Ralphie to be like, I can't get up. He's like, not in this movie. Anyway, so I love Rick, and here's why. Because I did like when I was like super into like comic book reading, which was kind of like more when we were working together. Yeah. I was like, we were going like really often. I was buying, we were talking about it. I was still kind of in the show, but I found out that the whole story is kind of formatted around character development and how you put someone through so many different situations and how it develops them as a person. So for instance, you look at Rick and starting off, like knowing like season 8 that I left off on, knowing that Rick and starting all over again and seeing like wimpy Rick is like freaking out because there's a zombie walking towards him. And I'm like, this is the same guy. Like he went from like crying because there's a zombie to like he's like waking up and stabs a zombie like in his sleep and goes back to bed. I'm like, that's insane. Like How did he get from A to B?
Yeah.
And I think the book does that very well, where it develops him over time.
Yeah.
Where you learn to like the BA Rick, where he's just like gnarly. He has a beard. He's like stabbing people. He's like making decisions. He's killing people. Like the crazy Rick that everyone loves.
Yeah.
Had a terrible start, and I'm like, this guy's gonna lead a group of people.
Yeah.
Like Alexandria, this guy who's like crying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I love that because you see a lot of character development in him throughout, the 8 seasons I watched on TV and then what I read from the book. And I'm like, I appreciate that. Like, character development is huge for me.
Yeah, no, I'd say I agree. I think I don't know where I'm getting this from, but I could swear that I read something, and it's like, what's his face? Robert Kirkman, who wrote the story, had his intention behind it was like, how much like hell can I put one man through? You know what I mean?
And how are they going to come out of it?
Exactly, and how they're going to come out of it. And that was kind of really how The Walking Dead ended up.
Yeah, like he woke up in a hospital. He's like, where's my family? Goes to his house. It's like ransacked, destroyed. So assuming my family's dead, there's zombies walking around. Then he goes, meets up fine with his family. Later on, his wife ends up dying, but has a kid. Like crazy stuff. Finds out that it's not really his kid.
Yeah.
Like crazy things like that. And you see him continue to push through and like become a better version of who he was. And it's like, I didn't think he's going to get through that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if my wife died and then the kid that I was raising was like not my own, I don't know if I can make it through that. Like, and this guy's like, all right, I'm going to go lead this group out of prison because prison's overrun.
Yeah.
Just amazing things like that I'm like, I like, it's cool to have like a cool, like fun, cheesy story. But for me, if there's no character development in it, it's just like a story. Like for instance, Iron Man, you like to see Iron Man 1 and who Tony Stark was. And then in Endgame, how he like left his legacy. I'm like, that's not the same Tony making that decision. Because, Iron Man 1, Tony's not going to put his life down the line for everybody. Mm-hmm. He's not going to do that because that's not who he was. But over, 7 movies?
Iron Man? I think it was 8.
Yeah, 8 movies.
8 movies that Robert Downey Jr. appeared as Iron Man.
Right. So you get 8 of those, and then you're like, oh, man. Like that's why everyone's like, oh, Iron Man. Because we remember where we started off. Yeah. This playboy billionaire guy is like, oh, you can't touch me. I can do whatever I want. And now he's like literally laying down his life when he has a wife and a daughter. I'm like, don't know if I could do that. And yeah. But Tony did? Like what?
Yeah. So, the arc goes from, you see the man go from selfish to selfless.
Yeah. So I appreciate character development. And that's why I love Rick. Because it's pretty much like you just said. Well, what could we put one guy through and is he going to make it out and how?
Yeah. I agree. I like that. Okay. My favorite character is going to be... I think honestly in this volume that I read,
the RV.
No.
Oh dang it!
The RV.
For the camp.
No, that's a useful RV. But I think it's Carl.
Yeah, say it right, Carl.
Car. Is that close? Like
wow.
There we go.
You fooled me, Rick.
It's me. I'm like, what was that, Peter Jackson? Yeah, you like that too? I'll be in your next movie. P-Fly.
P-Fly.
But yeah, no, I think that. I think that Rick is, or no, not Rick, Carl is my favorite because no matter what, like, I just think the relationship between father and child, or father and son, is a very priceless dynamic. And even in the few panels that we got with Carl and Rick together, him defending his father against, his father's best friend that was turning on him was a very beautiful arc. And like, it just showed so much maturity within such a young man, and to like take on that mantle of maturity was really cool, really beautiful. And so,
and two, in an apocalypse, which is, it's more intense than a young man going through life, dealing with things. It's like, he's dealing with all like the normal, like young manhood things, but also there's zombies trying to eat him. So it's like almost like times 200 that he's like developing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with you. And, but yeah, so I think Carl, I was most impressed by him. And then I guess my last question, Alec, and this can be based on the series and this book or just the what we just read. What would you rate this out of 10?
Well, biasly, I would rate it a 10.
Great.
Because I love the TV show. I love the comic book.
That's awesome.
But it also comes from a place where I'm like not the most educated guy on comics, so it's a little swayed, which is fine to say.
That's not how I do my scale. So
yeah, it's like hearing Kanye and saying he's the best artist ever, but you never heard Michael Jackson. You're like, okay, like there's like I get what you're saying, but look at all these other options.
There are other options, but also that doesn't mean I always think about it, and probably by this point my fans are sick of hearing this. Did they set out to tell the story they wanted to tell, and then did they do that well? And so I'm like, if they did, then I'm like, okay, like because Squirrel Girl in my book's a 10, and then I don't think this is a 10 personally. I'd give it I'm only reading the first 6 issues. I think the first what I would rank them would be I don't know, because the hits don't hit as hard too. So I'd say I'd probably give it like a 6.5.
Is that because of the TV show you watched? Or?
I watched the TV show. I've already read this volume before.
So do you think they're kind of like...
Yeah, okay. Exactly. I'm like, maybe when I first read this, I first read this when I was like a freshman in high school.
Oh, wow.
I read the first like 12 issues, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know stories could do
So
this.
then it was 10, and that's when you're getting into comics?
Yeah. That was like, okay. I think this was probably, like many people, I think I can say that this is the first indie comic I'd ever read, because otherwise, at that point, I was only reading like Batman and Robin, and that really...
Your staples, yeah.
Because I didn't have much money. I wanted to read Batman. He was my favorite. And then the occasional Spider-Man too. But, but these were my number ones.
Yeah, that's cool.
Actually big shout out. I don't know if he listens. I don't imagine he does. Tate Van Duvenbode. He is the person that loaned me his first hardcover of Walking Dead. And I think he collected a bunch of them. I think
this episode goes to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tate. So I appreciate that. Okay, Alec, thank you so much for coming on the podcast
You're welcome.
Chit-chatting with me about Walking Dead. Is there any place that these people can find you, or
everywhere?
Okay. Like if you want those follows, I got you covered.
Let me pull out the list. I have an Instagram. Whoa, and I'm 29. So, for those of you who are listening,
he's not single, ladies.
Yeah, sorry, Kyle. But so you can find me on Facebook for the older population, and then Instagram. I have a TikTok.
He's big on TikTok.
6K followers. What? And I stream Warzone play on Twitch. 22 followers.
Proud of you.
I'm proud. I have a 1.56 KD, which is pretty stinking good.
I don't know what that means.
It means I'm pro.
He always wants me to play video games with him. I
destroy you. Let's be honest.
COD gives me anxiety. Like the music and like the rooms. Oh my, it's scary.
It fills me with adrenaline. I'm like shaking, and I'm like, I need to get this last guy.
Yeah, I'm shaking too. Not in a fun way though.
Fear.
Not in an adrenaline way. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, why did he kill me? That's so mean.
Yeah. I just wanted to say hi.
I'm like, hey man, like check out this gun I got. It's pretty sick.
Yeah. Oh, you're shooting me with it. That's awesome.
I'm like, yours is kind of cool too, but like, could you not? Ow.
Ouch, that hurts. Terminator, flamethrower.
So you got those.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Also, my phone number is 7. I don't know. What do you want to say?
No. That was it. I was like, I just want to make sure we hit all the bases. You're not on Twitter, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so,
I rely on you for that.
They aren't allowed to have my Twitter. It's in the links. So, guys, it's the Cam Reads Comics Twitter. Go check out Cam Reads Comics on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. I think that's it.
Any place you get your books from.
Any place to get your books from. Oh, go to Pulp Fiction Comics because they rule. And then also go check out my. If you're listening to this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe and clobber that like button. And if you're listening on iTunes, please go leave a 5-star rating and review so that other people can find this podcast and maybe read some more Walking Dead.
Maybe.
Thank you, Alec. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Cam.
Bye.